Hey everyone, it's Mr. Miles. Just going to pop a quick video on here to show you all how to use commas and check for fused sentences and all that good stuff. So, the first thing I want to show you is this little paragraph here about capybaras, and it is chock full of run on sentences and comma splices. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look and see where they are at and kind of show you how I determine where the fused sentences are, where the comma splices are, and how I figure that out. How do I identify those things if I'm in the wild, right? Because this is how you're going to encounter all this stuff. You're not going to see it on a worksheet. When you actually go out into the real world, you're going to be looking for these comma splices and run on sentences. You're going to be looking for those in essays, right? In articles, in the real world. Okay. So here is my goal is to hopefully show you how to do that. Okay. Um, so let's just take a look at this passage here and see where we can find either comma splices or fused sentences. And just to clarify, comma splices, okay, are any incorrect usage of a comma. A lot of people seem to think that a comma splice is where I put a comma and it doesn't need to be one. It's not necessarily true. A comma splice can be just you using a comma incorrectly, like you just not following the comma rules. Okay. And so, before we dig into it, just as a refresher, main comma rules are when you have an independent plus an independent, you need a comma and a conjunction, okay, to join them. All right. So, for example, I bought a stapler from Walmart, comma, and I have not seen it jam yet. Okay. So these two sentences or clauses, I bought a stapler from Walmart. I have not seen it jam yet. Those are both independent clauses. They both stand alone. Okay. Or they can stand alone because they both have a subject and a verb and a complete thought. Okay. And so a comma by itself would not work here. Okay. Would not work. I have to have a conjunction of some kind. Okay. Um, and it has to be a coordinating conjunction, the fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet. So it has to be one of those. Okay. Um, so that's rule number one. Okay. Rule number two is when I have a complex sentence. Okay. So a complex sentence is usually a dependent plus an independent, or it can be an independent, then dependent clause. Okay. If it comes in the order dependent, then independent, then I have to have a comma to separate the two. If it comes in the order of independent first, then dependent second, I have to have no comma, okay, separating them. All right. So, example of that would be till you finish your Brussels sprouts, you cannot play your video games. Okay. So if you look at the sentence, we have the dependent first. That's not a complete thought by itself until you finish your Brussels sprouts. And then you have the independent clause after, you cannot play your video games. Okay. That comma has to be there because it goes dependent, independent. If I rearranged it, you cannot play your video games until you finish your Brussels. Okay. That would be correct as written. Okay. You can't have a comma here. All right. So those are the major kind of staple rules, all right, for commas. And then you have other kind of minor rules that you should probably be at least somewhat familiar with. One is positives. Okay, my brother Hector is a really big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Okay. Um, Here in this instance, you have these two commas here, but they have to be there because I have Hector, which isn't a positive. And Hector is like extra information. Um, Another way of thinking about a positive is sometimes they're called parenthetical expressions or parenthetical phrases. In other words, things I could put in parentheses. Something that I put in parentheses doesn't have to be in the sentence for the sentence to make sense. I could just say my brother is a real big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and that's fine. But I put Hector's name in there to clarify which brother I'm talking about. Okay, so that's an appositive. Um, so whenever you have appositives, extra information, parenthetical expressions, you set those off with commas. So those have to be there. Okay. Okay. And then the last one that I want to talk about is introductory expressions, phrases, elements. So this can be an introductory word like furthermore, blah, 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 blah. Okay. It could be an introductory phrase, usually a prepositional phrase. So, for example, outside the window, there is a cat. Okay. So, prepositional phrase, introductory phrase. Um, you can have another kind, which is like to understand the entire lesson, comma, you must first pay attention to the teacher. Okay. Something like that. Okay. So introductory elements can be a single word. It can be a prepositional phrase. It can be another kind of phrase like this. In this case, it's an infinitive phrase. But those always have to be set off with commas as well. Okay. So those are the rules, all right, for how to use a comma. Now let's kind of closely examine this article on capybaras here and see what we need to do. All right. So, capybaras, also known as water hogs. Okay. Well, first off, I've got commas here. Do those commas need to go there? Well, I'm seeing that capybaras, also known as water hogs, are the largest rodents in the world. So, the initial thought of the subject here continues after. So if I bracketed this off and I cut this out of the sentence would still make sense. So, with that being said, I realize this is a positive and that those two commas need to go there. Okay? So those two commas are correct. Capybaras, also known as water hogs, are the largest rodents in the world. They can weigh up to 140 pounds and measure up to 4 feet long. They are native to South America and can be found in a variety of habitats such as forests, savannas, and wetlands. Okay, well, just reading that whole chunk should tip you off that there is something wrong there because that is really long. Okay? There's a very long sentence. So, how do I fix it? What do I do? What's wrong with it? Well, going back to the initial first part of the sentence, I'm looking and I see capybaras, also known as water hogs, are the largest rodents in the world. They. Well, it sure sounds like to me that's another subject of another sentence, right? This is a complete thought. Capybaras are the largest rodents in the world. That's a complete thought. They can weigh up to 140 pounds. That seems like another complete thought. And so, what I should do in that situation is look and see, is there punctuation separating them? And I look and I see, well, no, there's not. There should probably be a period there. Okay. Okay. So, I'm going to put a period there because that's a fused sentence. They can weigh up to 140 pounds and measure up to 4 feet long, comma. They are native to South America and can be found in a variety of habitats such as forests, savannas, and wetlands. Okay. Well, those to me sure sound like two totally different sentences, right? This first part's talking about how big they get, and then this part is talking about their habitat. And I'm having trouble drawing with this thing. So it sure seems like to me those are two different sentences. So what I have here is I need to put a comma here. They are native to South America. That seems like a comma splice. That comma doesn't need to go there. It's joining two unrelated independent clauses. Okay. And so even if I had a conjunction there, I don't know if that would entirely make sense. Okay. Because they're two separate ideas. So what I probably need to do is just add another period there. Okay. So I've got two periods. Okay. Two different sentences. They are native to South America and can be found in a variety of habitats such as forests, savannas, and wetlands. Well, those commas are correct because I'm listing something. Okay, so that's fine. They are herbivores and primarily eat grasses, fruits, and aquatic plants. Again, listing. They also graze on the banks of rivers and lakes. Okay, well, here these two ideas are vaguely related, but I have two independent clauses. They're herbivores and primarily eat da 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 da. That's an independent clause. They also graze on the banks of rivers and lakes. That's also a complete thought. So what I would do here is I would probably write and. Okay, I would add a conjunction here to help this sentence cohere together a little bit better, help it join together, help glue it together. Capybaras are social animals and live in groups of up to 100 individuals. They are also excellent swimmers and can remain underwater for up to 5 minutes. Okay, again, this should be sending off a little alarm bell in your head because you see these two sentences here that kind of deal with two separate topics. This one is talking about how they're social animals. This one's talking about how they're excellent swimmers. Those don't really relate, do they? And this is a comma. Well, that should probably be a, you guessed it, period. Okay? In addition to being a popular exotic pet, capybaras are also hunted for their meat and fur, which has led the population declines in some areas. Okay, so one thing that you should pay attention to as you look at this sentence. In addition to being a popular exotic pet, well, if you go back up, okay, you'll notice that this is an introductory phrase, okay? In addition to being a popular exotic pet, okay? The thing is about introductory phrases, I don't need them for the sentence to grammatically make sense. I can cut them out and the sentence will be fine, okay? So I don't need it, but because I have it, I have to put a comma here. Capybaras are also hunted for their meat and fur, which has led to population declines in some areas, okay? So here's the thing. Taking out the introductory element of this sentence. So imagine the sentence was just, capybaras are also hunted for their meat and fur. Is that an independent clause or a dependent clause? It is independent. Okay. Which has led to population declines in some areas. Okay. This will trip some people up because they think that which has led to population declines in some areas is a dependent clause, in which case that this comma would not need to go here. Okay. However, one thing you can't forget, which is a pronoun. So because which is a pronoun, that means I have a subject. Because I have a subject, that means I just need to have a verb for it to be a complete clause. Well, I have a verb, which has led to. Okay. Has led is the verb, which is the pronoun subject. So because I have a subject, a verb, and a complete thought, it is an independent clause. Okay. So that comma actually works. However, that's an introductory element. That comma is needed. They are considered a near threatened species and conservation efforts are in place to protect them. Okay, seems like a complete thought. They are also protected by law in some countries. This is a fused sentence right here. And obviously Google Docs is telling me that it is. Instead of separating them into two different sentences, though, because I have two ideas that are pretty much building on top of one another. Like, so this first sentence is talking about how they are endangered, okay? And this one is talking about how they are protected by law in some countries. So because the second sentence builds off of the first one, I think probably the best way to join the two of them would not be a period or a comma conjunction, but probably a semicolon, okay? Okay, so next, despite their size and potential for danger, capybaras are generally docile and are known to be friendly towards humans and other animals. Okay, so we've got this that has a comma right here. Okay, so is this comma correct? Is the question. So despite their size and potential for danger, well, that is clearly a dependent clause. That's not going to be able to stand on its own as a sentence. So that's dependent. Capybaras are generally docile and are known to be friendly towards humans and other animals. All that's independent. That stands on its own. So that is a correct comma. Okay, so that is good. They are also popular with tourists and often fed by visitors at wildlife parks and zoos. Nothing wrong there. Overall, capybaras are fascinating animals that deserve to be protected and respected. Okay, so that comma is fine because it's an introductory word. And then protected and respected, you've got a conjunction here, but it's a compound verb. Okay, they deserve to be protected and respected. So I don't need to worry about a comma or anything like that. I mean, obviously, respect is not a standalone sentence. Okay, so hopefully that helps. That kind of gives you a general lay of the land as far as like how to use commas, fix comma splices, find them in the wild, fuse sentences, all that good stuff. If you have any more questions about it, please feel free to come email me, talk to me, shoot me a reminder. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. But hopefully we can master this and be able to build on it and move on to some other stuff. Okay.